Are we live now? I thought I was going to hear music, but I didn't hear music.
You are.
So, okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Birthing Boldly, Empowering Your Labor and Delivery Experience. I'm elated to have you guys join us tonight for this very important workshop. I want to give a shout out to Birthing the Magic Collaborative for their continued support in keeping these important topics and issues in the forefront of our community. I am Larissa Madison. I'm your host this evening. A little bit about me. I am an RN, IBCLC, based in Evansville, Indiana. I currently work as a lactation consultant inpatient at a very busy birthing hospital here in Southern Indiana. I am super excited to introduce to you all Miss Tiffany Slade. We're going to give her some snap. Tiffany is the founder and owner of Birthing Boldly LLC. She is the mom of four, born and raised in North Carolina. Her passion for wanting to work with families started as a young age. And as a result, she has since spent the past 12 years educating, supporting, and empowering families in the North Carolina and South Virginia areas. Tiffany is an IBCLC lactation consultant, student midwife, nurse tech, childbirth educator, lactation educator, full spectrum holistic fertility, birth, and postpartum doula. Welcome, Miss Tiffany. How are you?
Doing good. How about you?
I am well. Before we jump into the workshop and allow you to do your thing, um, can you tell us a little bit about your organization, some of the services that you guys provide, and then we'll use that as a segue for you to go ahead and start your presentation. I do want to say if anyone has any questions, they can go ahead and throw it into the chat and hopefully in the end, we'll have time and we can get to some of those questions. So Miss Tiffany, I will allow you to take it away.
Hey everybody. So Birth and Boldly was created in 2020, the heart of like the pandemic. Was working on everything in 2019, and then as soon as I launched, the world kind of shut down. Which is okay. Everything happens for a reason. I feel like a lot of moms were kind of thrown in a gap where they didn't get care they needed. So I was able to be that beacon of help to families. So I do a little bit of everything as you went over my bio. So the main thing is I educate and empower families. And that can look like many different things, just depending on what families' needs are and their journey and what they want for themselves. So I'm very big on meeting families where they are and helping them. So I help families get pregnant. I stay with them during their pregnancy to support them, educate them, advocate for them, and then they have me during their labor and postpartum. So we do perinatal education. We have breastfeeding supplies, birth tub rentals, a little bit of everything. Belly
Wow.
bonding, just yeah, mental health therapy. Just want to be what families need, so they're not getting pushed different places. They can come to us and get everything they need.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you.
So if you want to go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen and we can go ahead and get started. Can you see this okay? I want to make sure everybody's seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it looks good.
Good, perfect. Okay. So we went over a little introduction about me, so I'm not going to go over that in depth anymore. I do want to kind of start us off because some topics might get a little heavy just because this is a serious subject, but we will all bring it back in to nice, healthy positivity and getting families what they need. I'm a big believer also in kind of knowing your history because if you're going anywhere, history kind of can repeat itself at times, and you want to know where we have came and the reason things may look the way they look now. As far as all the horror stories we hear in hospitals, and even sometimes out of hospitals, because people aren't getting the care that they need. And so we take a look at our history a little bit. So Of course, the beginning of slavery around the you get different timelines, the 1500s to the 1600s, depending on when slaves was in other countries or our country. Um, but you have a large amount of years and generations going through trauma and abuse where families are being torn apart. They're stripped from their history, their family, their culture, language, their religion and spirituality. Like everything is just torn apart. They're in this new surrounding, and they're having to navigate as best as they can to assimilate with all the tons of abuse that they're receiving, physical, mental, psychological, emotional, just a lot to put on families. Um, and when you look at that and how that showed up for women, Black women, in our womb, is women are tend to be like the care and the nurturers of the family. We try to keep the family together. That's kind of our role. And we tend to just bear everything on our back because we have that mentality of strong Black women, which we are strong, but sometimes we have to put that cape up. Honestly, I have learned that. But you had all these years of our ancestors and our great 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 grandparents being raped, being beaten, forced to bear children even if they don't want to, or being and then having those children that they were forced to have being ripped away. Also, when you look at the breastfeeding and the lactation end of things, that's how babies were being fed by nursing. But we had our ancestors not being able to nurse their own children, but having to nurse the master's children. So it fell on them if they were sole wet nurses to nurse those children and either put their children at the back burner and not nurse first, or having to have someone else in the community nurse their children because they can provide their milk for their baby. And that gave negative connotation to breastfeeding. And we still are trying to change the narrative in our community around breastfeeding as well. Then you go into having, and if anybody doesn't know this, I really would like for y'all to check it out and look. But Dr. Sims, Marion Sims, he is like the father of gynecology. And during this time, he wasn't a slave owner, but he worked with different slave plantations to get slaves to perform surgical procedures on them to experiment because he wanted to be a doctor and he wanted to be the first to experiment and learn all these things. So he did them. He perfectly healthy women. Some of them did have issues with childbirth, but a lot of them was perfectly healthy women that he performed these gynecological surgeries without pain medicine. He didn't believe we felt pain. And this is like women being strapped down and being cut open and doing huge major surgeries, which is horrifying. Um,
Mm.
and in this day, of course, when we have any type of surgery, we have some type of medicine. And as horrible as it is, doctors are being taught on his findings and his studies and what he found from those surgeries. So you have to look at the doctors that's now caring for us and continuing to go with tradition or believing on his theories that we don't feel pain, that we can take it. Whereas other nationalities, they feel pain. So they're more equipped to be able to get all the care that they need. So that kind of set a precedence when you look at gynecological surgeries and how we're being treated in the atmosphere. We had Granny Midwives. So around 1910 is when the Flexner report came out. Granny Midwives was like the pillar of the community. They deliver babies, that was their thing, but because white providers didn't see us, they did everything. So they cared for the whole family. They supported and held up the Black families. They worked with the children, dads, anybody who needed anything, and this is post-slavery. Um, they they cared for the family. So they went above and beyond. It wasn't just like they delivered the baby and was done. No, they came and did postpartum visits. If that mama needed rest, you go rest. Like we're here, we're caring for the family, we're cooking, we're doing all those things. So the Flexner report was published in 1910. And what that did is it basically set a precedence of how people needed to be certain providers and what education they needed to have. So in theory, it caused an eradication of granny midwives and other holistic providers, farthering the gap between farthering the gap in proper care for Black mothers and families. So it initially forced all of those families to be able to have to not be with the granny midwife because it was illegal. So they were stripped of any licensure they had, or they made it difficult for them to be able to practice. So a lot of our families were being forced into the hospital, um, in return, getting care from those providers that received education from Marion Sims. So you can see how that went into play with all our horror stories that we end up having. It just didn't get better, and it forced us to have to receive care that way. Currently, when you look at families, things are trying to get better. Are they 100% better? Absolutely not. Can we still work on them? Yes, we can. But Black families are starting to educate and research more options for safe ways to receive care from providers that look like us, that understand our culture. And that is super important, because you want that level of humility and compassion and care, and not having to already have your guard up that you're not getting what you need. So want to look at the facts and these current day facts now. Black maternal infant mortality rates are 2 to 3 times higher than any other race. So that is like depressing. I'll be honest. It's hard. Because I'm a mom and I'm Black and I have 4 children. And I've worked in different settings as far as hospital and home birth to be able to see different things. But studies have shown Black babies aren't living to see their first birthday. Like their rates are super high and they're not being able to have a first birthday compared to other races. All women, but especially Black women, aren't receiving the care that they need and deserve. So while I know the rates for Black women are high, I've seen other races not get the care they need from their providers as well, which is even more disheartening. Women receive less support during their pregnancy journey and are expected to be back to work before their bodies have healed. So society and the way things are set up, it's like we got to have a baby and we got to go back out there and work within a few weeks, which is definitely not healthy, for our mental or our physical. Like it's a lot to recover from having a baby, and those hormones and emotions are kind of all over the place. And studies have shown women just don't trust their providers. Like they're not able to spend enough time with them to build that trust, but then they also don't know that, or feel like they have their best interest in hand. So this is a chart by the March of Dimes Foundation, and it was put out this year, 2023. So I want you to actually see the stats, so you know it's not like somebody just kind of threw out there. This is like per 1,000 live births and the races and the rates that babies are not making it. So you see that our race is at 10.8. So like it's an alarming rate. And then right under us, you have American Indian and Alaskan Natives. So we don't want any babies on this chart, but we definitely don't want this alarming amount of numbers on this chart, especially when we have the health system now with all the means to have things better than they are now. It doesn't have to be this way. So we don't want it this way. And it can be changed. Now, it's changed overnight? Absolutely not. I'm not going to sugarcoat some because I like to be straightforward. It is a collaborative effort from everybody to try to change it. But also, I'm all about advocating for families, but also empowering families so they're able to advocate there for themselves when I'm not there. Because in theory, I like to be there all the time, but sometimes I cannot be. It just don't work that way. So I want them to be able to advocate for themselves and then have a good support system of family when they're not able to advocate. Their family can pick up that ball to make sure they're getting what they need. So we'll kind of look at ways to kind of get you there as much as you can to create a good journey for you. So when you think about, the first thing I tell my families is when you think about your birth and your labor and your pregnancy journey, like what do you envision for yourself? And that can look like many different things. And when you first think of it, usually people kind of just hone in on the birth and labor, which is fine. But that pregnancy journey matters a whole lot also because that's setting you up to get to where you need. So if you're falling through the gaps in pregnancy, you're not even going to be able to get there doing birth and labor to get what you need because you don't have that foundation set up. Like you need a solid foundation so you can build on that to continue to have what you need. So the first thing I have families do is create a birth plan. And we won't go in depth with all of these because that will be like extremely long. So we're going to hit things. But definitely, I'll have my contact information at the end. If you need anything, reach out. We can go in depth for any families. But research is the main thing. You want to look at when you're creating your birth plan for the main basis of things like what type of provider do you want? Do you want an OBGYN? Do you want a midwife? Are you considered high risk or low risk? That kind of depends. If you're high risk, you may have to have an OBGYN just depending on how things will go. And you want to, and nothing's wrong with having an OBGYN. You just want to make sure you have the right provider for you that fits your needs. You want to look at where you're delivering at. So you have hospitals, you have birth centers, or you can deliver at home. Um, and we'll talk about each one of those and what criteria you may fall in to decide what is the optimum place for you to deliver. Also, you want to look at pain medicine. So, natural birth is awesome, but not everybody wants a natural birth. And if you want pain medicine, that is absolutely fine. I don't shade anybody for that. Like, you do not have to not have pain medicine and wear that badge if you don't want it. That's okay. Still birth the baby. Like, you're strong. You are doing this. Um, and it's different types of pain medicine. So you have IV meds, you have nitrous oxide, which is like a laughing gas. It's more short-lived. It doesn't last long, like it's quick. The IV meds is a little bit longer, but it doesn't take the pain completely away. So it's almost where it kind of gives you like that woozy feeling, like it takes the edge off. So contractions kind of go in a mountain pattern. So you kind of go up and you get that peak, and then you kind of slowly go down. So the IV meds, what that typically does is just kind of cut that top of that peak off the mountain, so to speak. You'll still feel some, but you're kind of in and out sleepy type of feeling. Now the epidural, that is one that will completely, you won't have any pain, especially if it's placed correctly. You will be numb, waist down, kind of at your belly button and down. You still will have pressure. You can feel pressure, especially when you're pushing. Um, but it depends on what your situation is. And I employ families that if you want to get medicine or you're kind of unsure, you can always start at the lowest, which will be like the laughing gas, and then maybe trying the IV meds before you just go straight to epidural if that's something you want. Now, depending on the type of medicines you get, it is a waiting period in between. Like they're not going to give you laughing gas and then with an hour IV meds and then another hour epidural. Like that's just too much medicine. You're overdose. And then you also want to look at how is effects on the baby also, because the baby gets some of those meds. They won't overdose you. They want to make sure that the baby is not getting too much where it will affect labor. But those are things to consider as well. And then the natural methods of pain medicine, well, pain medication as far as pain management, excuse me. So you can do water. Water is awesome. It helps take off the pain. So you, even if you don't want to do a water birth, which you absolutely can if that's what you want to do, but you can still labor in the water to use it as pain management. The shower. So if you're having back labor, get in that shower, turn around, let that water just hit on your back. Um, it will make a big difference. You can do pressure points where you can hold a cone and have the inner part of the cone. I just happen to have one near me. Works perfect. Inner part of you and kind of push on it like this. So what that will do is it will push pressure sensors in the inside of your palm to kind of take away from where you're feeling pain in other places. Then you have different positions you can do, moving and walking around. Um, the hip squeezes, they're like heaven. They help a whole lot to bring baby down, open up the pelvis, and if you're having a little back labor, that will help it too. So it's tons of different things you can do to help with that. And then a support. So support is a major factor through this whole journey because if mom's doing it herself without any support, studies have shown that that is when things kind of stall out for labor. And then postpartum, all of that can come up if you're not having the support that you need. So support can look many different ways. You can have a doula, family or friends, or just anybody that is in your corner that you feel you can rely on and you feel safe with them, and that they will act in a way during this vulnerable time that you're in that you would want them to. So this will look at the different birth locations. So hospitals, they're available to all birthing families. They will take you, even if you just happen to be traveling somewhere and you go into labor. You won't have the provider that you want in those cases, but they will have on-call staff anytime to be able to help you. They would just ask who you've been seeing for prenatal care, that type of thing, to get records sent over, so they'll know how to better treat you. If something like that happens and they don't ask for records and all those things, you need to be telling them to do that. Like, okay, I've received care. You need to get my records so you can properly treat me. Don't just be start doing stuff to me and you don't know nothing about me. Hospitals can handle any type of risk, low risk, medium risk, high risk, but definitely high risk pregnancies. That is where you would need to be. I wouldn't suggest, if you're high risk or having issues, to try to birth at home or birth center, just because things can happen. And if you're already high risk, you want to make sure you're at the right place if something is going to happen. And then they have policies that may be restrictive to your journey. So that is something that you want to kind of look at. So that's how that birth plan is coming to place, to see what you want and then start looking at the options you have to get you what you want. And then it's always okay to have another plan B. Like, that doesn't mean your plan A is not going to work, but that means you're just prepared for if something changes, you have a plan. You're not trying to think on it right away and scramble to get some, because when you start scrambling, that's when stuff kind of gets dropped. The ball isn't rolling like it needs to. Birth centers, they serve medium to low risk pregnancies. Their policies are a little bit less restrictive than hospitals, but that also depends on the state you're in and the birth center setup. So certain states will not allow certain providers or certain birth centers or places to do certain things. So that is where you need to be looking into your state and seeing policies they have surrounding the birth or the birth centers around you. Um, Go check them out. Like, do a tour, talk to them, get to know them, ask them these hard questions. Because if this policy is set in place, they have to be in writing, so they can provide them and show them to you. And the birth center setup, what I mean by that is, because if it's a birth center that's choosing to be accredited by certain organizations, then they have to follow those accreditation policies. Where some birth centers are freestanding, which means they're still providers, but they're choosing to just operate under their own umbrella and not certified with accreditation and be a standalone birth center and create their own policies and how they want to maneuver with families. So that is a big difference that is important to look into. And then they have more options on how to deliver. So birth centers can have water births. Some hospitals do water birth, but it may be limited depending on the hospital. But birth centers, they will have let you do more of the shower birthing, even on the floor if you want to. Kind of, I've seen some birth centers are okay with moms delivering outside, if they have like an enclosed place outside. So it just depends on what you want. But they'll have racks where you can kind of do it, rebozos like from the ceiling, all different types of things. So it's not your standard typical of just being in a hospital bed delivering. You can be in a bed, they have beds. But it doesn't have to be one set way. It's kind of what you want. Now, most birth centers don't have pain medicine. Some of them I've noticed have started having laughing gas, which is good if you wanted to use it, but that's questions to have answered so you would know too. So if you have this leeway or if you want to transfer for pain relief, are they still be able to serve you at a hospital? Or would it be kind of instance if you were traveling somewhere, you just got whatever provider you had? And then it's home birth. So home birth is for low risk pregnancies. It's being at home. It's freedom to just birth how you like. It's nobody telling you or every few minutes what you need to do, coming to check on you, waking up in the middle, like, it's totally different. Of course, every midwife or provider is a little bit different, but it is you being in your own home, in your surrounding, operating how you would normally do. It's them coming to you. It is a decreased risk of stall labor because you're in a familiar surrounding. Like, some families, once they get to the hospital, the contractions just stop or they slow down a whole lot. And moms are like, now I'm not lying. Like, I was really having contractions. Like, I was feeling them and they were coming every like 2-3 minutes and now it's nothing. That's because their body, it's kind of like your body just locked up. Like, almost fear. It's like we're in a different surrounding. I don't know if I can trust who I'm around. I don't know what's going on. Like, and then they start doing stuff to you in the hospital as soon as you get there as well. With some stuff they have to do, but it's just taking you out of your element where you're at home. You kind of just navigate and do like you normally would do. Now at home, it's no pain medicine at all. I haven't even seen anyone do laughing gas. There may be some people out there that do it, but generally at home, it's all holistic, alternative ways of reducing your pain. So the major thing is familiarize yourself with your hospital or wherever you decide to deliver's policy, because that will kind of help you with your birth plan and let you decide, I don't want to birth here. Let me check a different hospital or let me decide to go to a birth center. And then if nothing has what you want, to be like, okay, maybe I just need to do this at home, especially if you're low risk. You can find policies on your hospital's website. They should be on there. If for some reason you're not finding them, call them, ask them to send you the link or navigate you how to get to it. Or when you do a hospital tour, because places are starting back doing tours now, even birth centers, those are some questions to have and ask them. Like I said, ask them those hard questions, but ask them where their policies are located. Because I've had tons of families in the hospital wanting one thing, and the nurse or somebody would just be like, oh, that's against our policy. And it's like, okay, let me see your policy. Because some things ain't policy. It's just what's easier for them. Not always, but I have seen it. It's just easier, or that type of thing of we've always did it this way, which we know that just because you always did it that way don't mean that's the right way to do things sometimes. So yeah, figure out where the policies are located, ask questions if you don't understand some of the policies or what they mean. And then always remember, I'm so big on this. No is a complete sentence. So you don't have to tell them why you don't want to do something. I've had people, and I feel like sometimes that comes from them wanting to understand you, but then sometimes it comes from a place of trying to challenge. Wanting to know, well, why do you not want to do this? And who told you not to do this? Or where did it come from? No, no is a complete sentence. It's no, period. That's in. You have to take your own care into your hands sometimes. And sometimes that's hard. If you're feeling like somebody is over top of you or going to judge you, or feel like it's demeaning of you to do something. So no, so you can say no and be like, let's find an alternative route to get you what you need. Or if it's something that's okay to just not do, say no and don't do it. It's absolutely fine to do that. Okay, so when you're looking at your providers, I want to go over the different type of providers too. So you have OBGYNs, like they can serve all different type of risks, high risk, medium risk, low risk. Mainly OBGYNs are in the hospital. Some of them are in birth centers, but mainly hospital providers. So you have certified nurse midwives. So those are nurses that became a midwife. They can practice in any setting as well. Home birth, birth center, hospital. Typically you see birth center or hospital, but there are more starting to do home births now. Then you have certified professional midwife. They are midwives that don't have a nursing degree. So they have the same midwife education, just one is a nurse, one isn't. Depending on the state, most certified professional midwives are birth centers or home births, but depending on the state, some may be in a hospital, probably very few because they kind of operate on more of a holistic route most of the time. And then you have traditional midwives. They are usually home, maybe some hospital, depending on the route. But those are, um, excuse me, those are midwives who have did midwifery training and either chose not to certify with the accreditation body, like the norm or somewhere like that, but they don't have a nursing degree at all. So they haven't sat for a norm exam, but they have been trained either by apprentice or either they went to school but chose just not to take the board exam. So you want to make sure to interview different providers. So how do you choose who is right for you? It's like a question I get. And I'll be honest with you, you can interview providers and they can sound good. And then during your care, things can change. I'm just going to be honest. I have been through it myself. Like, this ain't what they were telling me. Like, act like they were willing to do this thing, but then they changed it. So you don't know those things that could come up and change and happen until you're in those situations. But I will say, use your discernment. Be prepared. Have that list of those easy questions, but those important hard questions. Like if I transfer, what's going to happen? If it's an emergency, who's going to be there? Are you okay with me not doing certain procedures or getting certain exams or doing like certain things with baby? Like those are all the questions you need to ask if you feel like those are things that's important to you that you want to have done or not done. You want to have a provider that is going to back you up and is okay with the type of care you want. So they can be initially people that's advocating for you if you're in a hospital setting, because hospitals, I will say, hospitals have like their policies or procedures on how they do things, but I've seen providers trump that by saying they're okay with something, and hospital kind of just backs up and like, okay, the provider's okay with it. It's whatever they want. So that is a good piece with picking your provider to make sure you're set up on a good journey. Also, ask them for their stats. So every provider keeps track of these things. And it shouldn't be hard to give you these. You want to know their C-section rates, how their recovery rates for their families, their hemorrhaging, how they were hemorrhaging, how they take care of it, their transfer. So they're doing home births. Ask them like, what's the transfer birth center? How many transfers you had where they had to leave the setting they are to go to the hospital, if that's something you're worried about. And what was the reason they had to transfer? Because not all transfers are bad transfers. Some is maybe a mama wants an epidural. You don't have that at home, or a birth center. And then most important, ask them their mortality rates. They have these stats. So you want to know how many moms have you had die during labor or birth or right after, like immediate postpartum. Why did that happen? They don't give you any names, but they can give you these stats and rates so you can see, because numbers don't lie. So even if you're interviewing them, they saying all the right questions, but then they go to give you their stats, and it's like, these stats ain't adding up to what you're saying. Like some ain't working right. So you want to see those things, and then you want to also look at their infant rates. Of infant, they may not have later on in life if infant passed, but at least right there during birth, and then right after immediate postpartum if something happened, or if there's an emergency that caused the infant to pass away. You want to ask where they deliver, where did they practice. Some people have multiple states they practice in if they're in border states, or may not have hospital privileges. So they may can care for you at home or the birth center, but then if you transfer, you're in the hospital with just whoever they have. And that may be a problem for you, because then you have to have care from whoever that you don't know or haven't built a relationship with. So that's important. And also, even if they don't have privileges at a hospital and you have to transfer, are they able to stay with you to help advocate for you if you have a doula or even if you don't? So be serious with these questions. It's literally an interview process. And you can call providers and ask, like, can I have a 30-minute consultation? Because I'm trying to choose the right provider. And it's not okay, it's not crazy to do these things before you even become pregnant. So in a perfect world, these would be things we will prepare and do before, but it's not, nobody's perfect. The world isn't perfect. So it may be you just finding out you're pregnant and doing these things. That's absolutely okay. Um, just because you want to make sure you're getting what you need from who you're seeing. And then you want to ask them, do they honor the parents' choice surrounding pregnancy, birth, and postpartum? So I forget some families I work with, they don't want a birth certificate. Some don't want to do a PKU, which is a metabolic test for the baby after within 24 hours. Um, some of them don't want vitamin K. Some of them don't want erythromycin. Some don't want hepatitis shots. Some of them don't want any immunization. I've worked with all different families. So these are important things you need to look at, because some providers will say, if you don't do this, I'm not going to see you or care for you. You don't want that to happen in the midst of all of this. This is not the time to have that happen. So you want to make sure they're okay with these things. And then also some states have to record births in file the birth certificate, even if you don't fill it out. So that's something to think about as well. And I know we're talking about birth, but this is also the mentality you should have when it comes to your pediatrician for your baby. So sometimes we do all this prepping while we're pregnant, and then we forget about, oh, well, the baby got to keep living to have a doctor. And then you're kind of just thrust to the pediatrician that may be at the hospital on call or who they typically just refer to. And so you need to be looking at different pediatricians, interviewing them, asking them these questions as well. So you already have them set up on how you will get your baby's first appointment done. And they all do it. Trust me. They don't advertise it, but they all do consultations. It's like an interview process. Um, this is another question I have just because I'm a doula. And I'm a student midwife. And so a lot of families are like, do I need a doula if I have a midwife? Like, I had a midwife, she good, we got a good relationship. I think I'm good. I don't need a doula. You still need one. Um, because they both operate different. So doulas provide an invaluable service to mothers and families. They don't provide medical treatment like a doula, like a midwife. So a midwife is the medical end. The doula is more of the support. So doulas are advocates as well. They provide educational, physical, emotional support to families, and then they're seeing the families throughout their pregnancy as well, developing that relationship. So early on, you probably will have your doula there before your midwife is even there, especially in a home birth, because we're getting there when you're in active labor. So when you're first having those labor pains and you need somebody to help you get through it, that's you need your doula there. And then they're helping you postpartum as well and visiting and doing the things when the midwife may not be there. So it's important to have a doula. You should get a good doula. I hate to say that way, but every doula is not the same and everybody's training is different. And to be honest with you, um, the doulas that are really awesome that everybody loves in any area fill up super fast. It's almost like the home birth midwives that fill up super fast. It's like you become pregnant, and it's people that's only like 2 weeks pregnant, but they already got their midwife and doula. And some people laugh, but it's like, okay, but now those good doulas are filled. So now you're scrambling to get what you need or hope that you find a doula that's in your area um, that is good and can help you in what you need and you click with and that's open. So interview different doulas as early as possible. Like it's the key. It don't have to be long. 20 minutes is kind of a good time range, maybe 30, just depending. Find out their background, their experience. Um, Ask them how they advocate for families because some people say they advocate, but they don't know how to advocate. And then some people advocate different than what you may. So some you may want a pushy doula, and then you may not want a pushy doula. So you want to kind of know how their advocacy skill shows up for you, and would that work for you and your partner and your family because you don't want any confliction with those. You want to make sure everybody one band, one sound. Like, everybody flows good together. It's a good relationship. Um, and you're not having to try to mediate something. Also, you want to ask about their backup policies because stuff just happens. Anything can happen. So it's good if they have somebody as a backup that can be there if they can't. Now, I will tell you whether they suggest it or not. If they have a backup, you need to meet the backup early as possible because what if you don't like that backup and then you don't meet them to at your birth and then that's a horrible experience and you're not getting what you need. So you need to meet them to make sure you click with them and everything is good. And then if it doesn't, ask them, do they have an alternate backup that you can meet to see if you can get what you need. Inquire about other services because typically doulas do more than one thing. Some of them just are doula, but then some of them do many different things and wear many hats. So it may be something you may want if you don't have to outsource. They can do it for you. So placenta encapsulation, or maybe helping with basic breastfeeding, those types of things, or even yoga. Some doulas are fitness instructors, so then you can do prenatal yoga as well to get your body ready for labor. That's important. And your doula is supposed to help you with your education piece. So when you're having a hard time finding those policies, um, that's a good thing. Those doulas can get that for you. Um, I know it sounds crazy, but the benefits to booking a doula early in pregnancy. If you can book a doula around 8 to 12 weeks, I know baby ain't doing a lot during that time, and you ain't even big, and you think you don't need it. Definitely get one then. Um, it gives you time to build that relationship. where it's more like a sisterhood. You don't even feel like you're a provider or anything. Like it's supposed to feel that way. Like this is my sister. She got my back. We're together, and I know my life is in good hands with my family and her here. And if it's something that I don't know or my family don't know, she's going to tell us and lead us in the right way. That's super important. Also, doulas can be expensive depending on your area and how your finances may look. And getting a doula early on, a lot of them do payment plans. I would say most of them do, or will work with you. So that gives you a time to stretch out that payment plan over this long amount of time, even if it's only like 50, $60 every 2 weeks or something like that. But that way you can get what you need without feeling like it's hurting your bank account. Um, and then you're, like I said, you're able to secure that good experienced doula. You're developing a relationship and you're getting bonding before labor. And it also allows them to give you all the deets in their area. So the doulas that have been doing this for a while or kind of are in the scene, they know the preferred, depending on your plan of what you want for your birth and labor, they know the preferred providers to go to. They know the hospital policies already. Like they can tell you things that the internet may not tell you just because they've been in it. It's the difference between knowing it and being around it and being in it and have interacted with those people. So that is the awesome part about it. And they can help you even finding your first appointment if it's that early to get you with a provider. So nutrition, a lot of things can be prevented in pregnancy by what we put in our body. And I know that's hard to hear sometimes, but it can be. Like you want to stay hydrated. Our bodies is like 55 to 60% of water. So we need to be drinking water. Anything is good, but you want to be being hydrated. Of course, if you have an off day, it's really hot and you're needing a IV hydration type of drink like Gatorade or the vitamin water, something like that, those are fine, but that shouldn't be like a consistent that you're having a drink all the time. You should be drinking at least 10 to 12 cups of something, mainly water if you can, and then anything else you can throw on it. Um, your diet, 1,800 to about 2,200 calories. If you're breastfeeding, additional 500 calories. And I say if you're breastfeeding because some moms are breastfeeding while they're pregnant. So they need to be, they're burning more calories also. They still need to be putting that back in there. That's important. 3 meals, 2 snacks. Some people are not sit down meal eaters, especially if they have multiple kids and they're always running. So for those instances, 6 small meals are good. Like you want to just make sure your blood sugar is not doing like up and downs, up and downs. That will make you feel weak, woozy, sweating, hot, like it will throw your body completely off. So if you're eating like you need to, it's keeping those blood sugars in a nice, healthy range. So you're not having those up and downs. Because when you start feeling bad because your sugar has dropped and you hadn't ate, even if you eat right away, it takes a while to get up like it needs to. So you feel the effects of it. Um, Supplements. So prenatal vitamins is good to have. The most important minerals you want to make sure you're getting in while you're pregnant is iron, calcium, potassium, and magnesium. Um, you will do blood work a lot probably in pregnancy, depending on your provider, but mainly that first initial blood work they should be looking at these minerals and giving you a copy or you being able to access them on like a my chart or electronic device. And you need to be looking at your levels to see where you're at. Now with African Americans, our vitamin D is typically low just because we don't synthesize the sun that well to be able to get the vitamin D we need because we have melanin, we're darker skin. So your vitamin D you need to be taking vitamin D if it's low. That's important. And then if you just happen to be sick or come in contact with anybody sick, you want to ramp up that zinc during that time. And then if you're already on prescription medications, that's not the time to cold turkey them. Even if you're worried about how it will be taking certain medicines depending on what you're on, that's conversation you need to have with your doctor before you stop taking them or adjust them to something that's safe during pregnancy. Doing cold turkey on any medications is not good. Like it would throw you completely off and may cause more harm than you continuing to take them. So that's a conversation that definitely should be had. And be in the know. Even if it is not your first baby, it's good to do perinatal education. And that's like breastfeeding classes, childbirth education, postpartum, newborn care. All of these can equip you with education to make informed decisions on your care. And your doula may be able to do some of those perinatal education classes for you, but that helps you be more informed because they should give you informed decision making or shared decision making with your provider, but not all of them may do that or don't have the time to do that. So you typically see providers are kind of in there, in and out 15 minutes. And it's because they bill in 15-minute increments. So they're trying to see as much as people as they can because they have you come early, wait all that time, see you 15 minutes and back out. Um, for the typical provider, some of them do 30, 45 minutes or longer. But that's why you see that trend of being in and out, and they don't have time to do that. And some of it is just staffing needs as well. But this helps a good foundation. And to the point of even if you have had other children taking these educations, it's super important just because research and studies change all the time and we continually learn and educate to know more. So my oldest is 16. So what I was doing at 16 years ago with him is totally different than when my 4-year-old and 2-year-old came around. I'll just learn more because of the studies and being able to work in a space of caring for them better and knowing I'm not causing harm just because things have changed. So the stages of labor, and we're not going to do complete childbirth education, but I do want to give y'all this because this is super important with your labor to have a nice steady pace to labor and not having like a stalled or you feel like you're not making progress or you're doing too much and you don't need to do all this progress. You're wearing yourself out. So early labor is the cervix is more soft, it's beginning to dilate. Contractions can be kind of consistent. Sometimes they're consistent, but they're not as strong yet. um the benefits for you around this time is mainly resting. Like you want to eat, you want to drink, do things that are distracting, but rest. So a lot of people, because we have that first set of contractions that we know that like this is labor because it ain't slowed up. Even when I rest, I still feel it. We kind of get ramped up. It's like we're like, okay, we're about to have a baby. Like we start trying to walk, we're trying to do exercise, we're trying to do positions, we're doing too much. So then when you get to active labor, you're like wore out. And this is when you need to be doing these things because you're trying to work and get baby out. Um, and be active. Like that's why it's called active labor. You need to be active. So that early labor, I tell my mamas, do whatever you normally do. Like if you're like taking a walk at the park at 12 o'clock and it's 12, go take a walk. Just take somebody with you. Don't go too far away, sitting near the car. But operate like you normally do. Rest, eat, love on dad. Like definitely don't tell them to go to work if you feel like you're a person that go in labor fast, but don't work too hard. Like you need to be resting. Active labor, that's when the cervix is continuing to dilate, but contractions are longer and more intense. So those contractions are like boom, 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 like they're going. You can have, if you're seeing that you're having contractions like every 5 minutes or so, and they're lasting a minute, and it's been an hour, like, and they're really hitting, you're probably in active labor. Especially you can't check your own cervix to know like where your cervix is at, but that is signs if you're having to take breaks within talking, you can't focus to hear somebody saying to you because that labor is just those contractions are just hitting, you're in active labor. So this is when you want quiet, you want privacy. Loud noise is distracting and irritating to you. You want your freedom of movement. This is important. You want gravity helping you. So walking, maybe squatting, being on all fours. This is the time where you want to be in the shower or in the birth pool, just doing all the things that help you take the edge off the pain, but also help bring the baby down. And then vocalizing. So you want to take good deep breaths and blowing them out. Don't hold your breath during labor. It restricts the oxygen to you, but also to the baby. You don't want a lot of tensing and frowning. So if you are feeling like your eyebrows are kind of like clenching up or you're holding, you are closing that cervix. Just think about your shoulders are tense, kind of relax all of that. Let your doula, let dad, let your partner massage you, help relax you. Pressure points as well. You want to just be as relaxed as you can, but also doing the movement to help baby. Transition. This is when the cervix becomes fully dilated. Baby's head goes from like in the uterus to the birth canal. And it's time for you to push. Like you start feeling that urge to push and bear down, which is awesome. You will push when you feel ready. We don't want any coach pushing. We want you to feel like you have that urge to then push. Of course, if you're not fully dilated or you need to do something different, the midwife will kind of instruct you on that. Or if it's your first baby, you're not sure how to push, you can get that rebozo, which is like some fabric, and almost do like a tug of war. So y'all are pulling against each other, but you're able to bear down and feel where you're pushing at. Also, they can do a vaginal exam and feel inside and tell you, like, I need you to be pushing right here. You feel this? Like push, and then they can help you kind of get baby out that little hump. Um, but you want calmness, you want encouragement, you want to be on a good rhythm with the baby. When you're doing your breathing, you want good deep low tones, like no high pitch and like, oh, you want those deep tones so it's not tensing your cervix up. So infant feeding, breastfeeding is awesome, but I know breastfeeding is not for every family. So how you feed your baby is your decision and how that looks. But definitely take advantage of the golden hour. So what that is the first hour after baby's born. So you want to do that good skin to skin. It helps regulate baby's temperature because the baby's just laying on you. Also, it allows maybe if you are going to nurse to be able to smell your milk, see your areolas because they're darker so the baby can see it. And it's really cute. They will do the breast crawl to get to your breast. Even if you decide not to breastfeed, that's fine. They're still crawl and try to get to it because that's their normal physiology response is to do that. That's what they're here for. Um, and the awesome thing about the babies doing the little crawl is it helps us deliver the placenta because they're pushing on our stomachs as well. So it's helping deliver that placenta and control our bleeding. So our bodies is made to deliver babies. Like if you get nothing from today, just know to trust your baby, trust your body. Like I said, our ancestors have been doing this for years upon years, and our moms. And we're here, we made it, and they were doing it back then with a lot less than what we have now. So you can do it. A lot of it is just believing in yourself and your body and your abilities to be able to do this. But breastfed babies typically eat 8 to 12 times a day. So you want to feed on demand and looking at feeding cues, but definitely not going over 3 hours without eating just because they burn calories really fast. And small newborn babies don't have a lot of fat stores. They do go through tons of growth spurts and cluster feed within the first month of their life. Typically, you'll see one when your mature milk is coming in around day 2, day 3. Again, around 5 to 7 days, just depending, but definitely around 2 weeks and the 3 to 4 week mark. And growth spurts look like an increase in duration and intervals. So that first day, you may have to wake the baby every few hours to eat. So day 2, day 3, babies are more alert and they're wanting to eat on their own. So they're like crying to eat, or they're going from eating 10, 15 minutes at a time to eating 30, 40, sometimes an hour long for every hour or so. So a lot of moms think that they don't have enough breast milk during this time. You absolutely do. That's what they're supposed to do. And that helps your mature milk come in from colostrum to fully white milk, like cow's milk, like we drink. So you'll see the changes in your breast milk. The digestion of breast milk and formula is different. So if I have families that do both, which is absolutely fine, but I like to educate them on the differences so they don't think something's wrong with their breast milk. So breast milk is made from our bodies for our babies, so they digest it naturally. So they eat it, it's in their stomachs, they poop it out like that, like super fast. And it's more runny stools. And so it almost looks like it's diarrhea because it's yellow and seedy, but it's not. Whereas formula is man-made, so it sits in the intestines longer. And while it's in the intestines, it's pulling water from the stool. So the stool is more darker and formed. Shouldn't be hard. Hard is constipation, but it's formed. As well as because it sits there, it makes baby feel like the baby's more full. So moms are like, well, with breast milk, the baby's eating all the time. Well, formula, they go a little bit longer. I think the formula is like lasting them longer. It's not really that. It's just sitting on their intestines a little bit longer. So that's kind of the gist of a fast wrap up of the differences of both. But also, if you plan to do formula or decide to do formula, you want to make sure you're mixing it correctly. So I did a class not too long ago, and it like shocked all the educators and um the parents that were in there. Nobody ever knew that. So knew this. But if you know, like maybe a year or so ago, we still have some effects from it now. We had the formula that was contaminated. Babies were getting sick. They was pulling it from shelf. Nobody could find formula. That was because the formula was contaminated. So I think a lot of people think formula is sterile because it's in a container it's meant for babies to eat. That would be nice, but it's not sterile. So you need to be boiling your water first. Make sure it's hot, mix it up. So it's killing whatever germs that's in the formula. You wouldn't give it to the baby that hot, of course. You would need to let it cool off, but you want to be making sure that you're boiling the water. So it's getting to a temperature to kill any germs that's in the formula. And then pace bottle feeding. So that's having baby at an upright position, bottle horizontal, kind of rubbing the nipple, baby's top lip, and letting baby latch onto the bottle and eat that way instead of a downward motion where they would kind of overeat. And you can do pace bottle feeding no matter what's in the bottle. It's just healthier for the baby with digestion and causing them not to overeat. So, what is the fourth trimester? So, a lot of people just think I had the baby, that's the end. Fourth trimester is the 12-week period immediately after you have had your baby. So, this is a crucial time because our bodies is trying to heal while our hormones are continually adjusting from the shift between pregnancy, immediate postpartum, and then newly becoming a mama. Excuse me. And on top of that, they're breastfeeding because that's hormones as well. So that is a lot. And you can prepare and do a postpartum plan for you to have. It's a plan. Like I said, it don't have to be set to stone, but it's good to kind of be prepared for it. I would say when you're thinking about your postpartum plan, rally your village for the support. If you don't have a village, because not everybody has a large village, create your village. And that can be trusted friends, family, godparents, or even a postpartum doula. Just people that you can trust that you know will definitely be here for you if you need them. And then after you get those people, we all know the people around us who are good for certain things. So grandmas always love to feed us. Have those grandmas doing the food. If you got a friend and she's very helpful, but she can't cook, still have her do some. Maybe she can come wash some clothes or do some chores or um, make some errands or even donate gift cards, something. You know who can do what. So you have to find those people and then ask them, are they okay with being part of your village and your support system? And can they show up for you? Because that's, you want to make sure they can do that. And then talk to them about what you need because I think people typically ask what you need, but don't expect a response. So a good idea because everybody always wants to visit the babies and sometimes they kind of forget about us. By default, not on purpose, I don't believe. I think everybody's just excited for babies. So have a list of different chores that they can help with or stuff that may be done around the house. Like, don't feel like you have to entertain people that's visiting you. And then when they leave, you still have to do something. It should not be that way. Have a list. So when they come and they're like, hey, and I'm like, hey, talk. And they're like, can you pick some off the list that needs to be done? And then you can have some time with the baby. Or can you watch the baby for me to take a shower? Because I haven't got to take a bath all day. And I really just need that alone time and some shower therapy. And they're typically okay, willing to help because they're showing up because they care for you and your family. Self-care for you. And I do self-care for dad as well because they need an outlet. But self-care activities can be anything you enjoy doing outside of being a mama if you already have kids, or if you hadn't done something in a while, but you'd like to do it and you hadn't. So it doesn't have to be big or even spending money. It could be praying, meditating, journaling, a day out with friends, even if they have to bring their kids, kids can have a little time together if you have nobody to watch your children. And then also important with your first fourth trimester, I include in a plan I have a template for families that I give out when they do postpartum planning with me and newborn education. But I have a plan for fathers as well, or your partner. because creating a safe place for your partners is important so they can discuss their feelings. Because men tend to don't do that. They're wanting to be like the head and to provide, and they just push their feelings back, especially Black men. And I like to employ that open space for them to share how they're feeling, because dads can go through postpartum depression as well, because a lot is on them financially and wanting to care and do stuff, but they don't know how to help, and then they feel helpless, but then they bottle it all in, because if you something is not going right with you, they take that as a dig to their masculinity, that they're not able to do certain things. And sometimes with postpartum depression or even just baby blues, it don't have nothing to involve anybody. Like that can't even do nothing if you wanted to. It's just within us and maybe just hormones. But having that communication lines open to be able to discuss that, and him having an outlet to be able to talk to someone that he can trust about his feelings, outside of you, if he feels like he doesn't want to burden you or you can't handle it right now. So communication is like the key and one of the most important things in the fourth trimester for your relationship, but as well as recovery. So just a summary, we're towards the end. Just remember your journey will be your journey. So everybody's journey looks different. It's not a right or wrong journey. It's what worked for your family and what you see for yourself when you think of your experience as far as birth to labor. And it's no right or wrong way. It's just only your way because it's the way you want it. Make a plan, but know if the plan deviates to something different, that's okay. Like it's okay for to have a plan and then a monkey wrench is thrown in something and you have to do something different. It's absolutely okay. Um, Incorporate your support system as much as you can and give yourself grace. Enjoy the now. I was doing a prenatal visit with a family Sunday, and grandma, we were talking and kind of bonding, and she said, you know what, I didn't realize how much I was so much on the go with raising my kids and always trying to get to the next step, that I didn't sit and enjoy the now. She said, I'm looking back on it and regret that I didn't enjoy them as much as I did. She said, that kind of makes me sad. And I reiterate to her daughter, which was pregnant, how much to do that. Like, take pauses to love on yourself and your experience now. And that's important because I find myself being like guilty of doing that. It's always something going on, so you're trying to get to the next step. So it's okay to be okay with the now. It's okay. Right. And I thank y'all for joining me. These are my social medias. You can reach out to me, email, IG, Facebook, YouTube, or the website if it's anything that you need beyond today. I'm so willing to help any way I can. Um, and I will stop sharing. So I'll take any questions, or if anybody need me to
Okay.
put a slide back up.
Well, thank you so much. I do want to throw out one clarification that we got in reference to the formula. Powder formula, I'm sorry, liquid formula is sterile,
It
and
is.
the powder formula is commercially sterile. And of course, a lot of people don't know at all whatsoever that we are to boil the water when we reconstitute the formulas. And so, I have found that a lot of pediatricians don't even educate that way. So it is shocking when you do educate and try to get moms to understand the proper way to reconstitute formula. We do have one question, and it says, "What's the consensus regarding warming bottles, breast milk versus formula? I see a lot of bottle warmers being advertised. I thought room temperature breast milk or formula was okay." And that was from Juliana. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so I'll be honest, I like to have babies get warm milk. Just because when they're getting it straight from the tap, which is at our breast, our milk is body warm, our body temperature from our body, so it's already warm. But that being said, I've had some families give cold milk to babies. Now I cringe a little bit just for me. But those babies have been okay, and some babies prefer cold milk. But I would say if you can, definitely warm up the milk at room temperature. Um, it is good for about 4 to 6 hours, just depending. But you want to warm it if you can. If it's warm, you don't want it too hot. So of course, just like you said, if you're boiling water and sitting it in there, don't put it in the microwave. If you can boil water and then maybe put it in a cup and then set the bottle in there for a little while and then test the milk. Even if it's the old way of kind of just testing it and putting it on your arm, that's fine. Your inner arm, that's fine. The bottle warmer thing, I'll be honest, I've seen some bottle warmers overheat. I had an instance with my youngest at his daycare. They use bottle warmers, and the
Mm.
bottle warmer got so high it evaporated all of the breast milk out the bottle. And
Oh,
they
wow.
called me and they were like, all his milk is gone. And I was like, what do you mean all his milk is gone? Like it just don't disappear. And they were like, we don't know what happened. Like it's supposed to shut off, and it did, but it just got too hot. And when we looked, the bottle was
Mm.
empty. So you have to be very careful. And I know it's probably time consuming it doing it the older way, or even if you put the water in the microwave and then set the bottle in it afterwards. That's okay. Just be careful because some bottle warmers get too hot.
Mhm. And we'll do one more question. Karen asks, how prevalent is regurgitation during labor and delivery? I'm assuming and wondering if she's meaning how when we're in the hospital, we get so restricted on intake, like ice chips, water, they don't allow us to have a lot of things. So I'm assuming her question is in reference to that. How prevalent is regurgitation during labor and delivery, or she either means some moms get so overwhelmed with pain that they do tend to respond with throwing up and things like that.
Yeah, so it's okay if you throw up in labor. Sometimes it's almost a good thing. If you're at the end, that vomiting will kind of push you over um into the 10 centimeter mark. So that's okay. They try to restrict fluids for the main reason of if you're getting an epidural, you can aspirate. If you're having to have the C-section and those types of reasons. If another thing goes back to your provider, sometimes our body will just shut down because our intestines aren't very mobile. Like you're having a baby and you may not want to eat. So you can do a clear liquid diet, which is what they will do. Or on top of the clear liquid diet, you can ask to do like maybe fruits or soft food. So that way you're still getting some for energy, but like it's not a steak. It's not something that's too heavy that'll cause you issues.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's it for our questions. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I even learned a lot. Honestly, I didn't I would say the past 10 years in this area, doulas haven't been very prevalent, right? So they're really starting to come around, and I didn't realize that there were so many different types of doulas until I started doing research on your organization. So your information was very it was awesome. I hope a lot of our prenatal moms out there got some good tips and tricks, and really learning to advocate and boldly stand up for yourself. I love birthing boldly because it sounds so strong to me. And a lot of people don't think of what we're doing in that moment and really how strong and the strength that we have. So I really appreciate you, the message that you gave. And if anyone has any other questions, they can go ahead and throw it out, and we will try to get back with you to get those answers. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.